Well, this week, our resident doc from Neutrog, he's just putting his stethoscope on at the moment, and he's got a grey coat on there. Let's have a rundown on the potential of urban horticulture. That's interesting. Good morning, Uwe.
Good morning, Graham. Well, firstly, let me congratulate you on your 40th anniversary. I know it's a week late. So
no worries, mate. Thank you. Thanks, buddy.
I completely forgot last week. I'm sorry about that.
No worries, mate. That's great. Thank you.
So I came across a really interesting scientific article in a journal, and it described the use of gardens and parks and actually roadside verges to grow food in the UK. But I still think it's really relevant in Australia. So, they spoke about things that we don't often think about in your garden, things like biodiversity, carbon capture, and reducing those heat islands. So it wasn't just about what you can grow, but how you can use your garden to help to improve your local environment. So in the UK, gardens are only about 90 square metres, and until recently in Australia, we really had about double that space. So our potential to actually use our gardens in a productive manner is obviously much, much greater. So, it doesn't mean everybody has to turn their garden into a vegetable plot. I mean, my own garden only has about 4 vegetable patches, some fruit trees, so it's only a limited amount of food I can harvest. And my garden is more habitat biodiversity garden, so it's got trees, shrubs, ground covers, and a large pond. So I've got a lot of bird life and skinks and frogs.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. A friend of mine she used to open her garden in Victoria, is the queen of the Verge garden, and she really started a long, long time ago, converting her front garden out in the street with council approval, and not all councils agree to it. And she's got a combination of flowers and veggies and fruit trees out there, and it's just brilliant. I filmed it some years ago. How much room do you actually need to grow your own food?
Well, this is what astounded me perhaps the most, was how little space you actually need to become almost fully self-sustainable. So in Australia, unlike in the UK, we can grow things all year round. So you need about 15 square metres, so 15 square metres per person to get a decent level of sustainability. So let's say you have 150 square metres of garden, you need to dedicate about 10% of your garden per person. And as you said, you can put fruit trees on road verges, so that you get away with a little bit less space. But all of this is really dependent on your yield, which is, again, linked to your water and, of course, your nutrients.
I've also filmed a whole street in Queensland. It was out, where was it? Was it Ipswich? I think it was Ipswich, where not only was there one street, but they ended up 11 streets planted with fruit trees down the street. And in fact, one street, the original street, was planted with vegetables as well. So you need some space, and of course you need some water. And as all of these gardens that I'm referring to, and that Uwe's referring to, you need a good fertiliser, Uwe.
Well, that's right. So for your space, you can always go vertical. So you can do things like beans and peas on trellises, tomatoes on stakes, and you can even go up against a fence with a vertical garden and grow things like spinach and lettuce. So there's a lot of websites that show you how to make maximal use of your garden. And watering your vegetables, so once it's mulched, it doesn't actually take that much water, and you'll save that money by spending less at the shop. So no matter what space you got, as you said, you got to fertilise. And I still believe that for all fruits and vegetables, you really can't go past Gyganic from Neutrog. So for intensive and an environmental sustainable vegetable growing, it really is the best.
Well, there you go. Well, it may be time for people to think about using some parts of their gardens to get some level of self-sustainability. It might be good for the whole country to do that, actually. To maximise your harvest, you need a good fertiliser, folks, and there's none better than Gyganic. I sprinkled some around our veggies during the week, and it's from Neutrog. Now, Gyganic, that's Gyganic, no T, is available at Bunnings, hardware outlets, and, of course, all good nurseries and garden centres. Thank you, Uwe, for a nice little story about how to turn our gardens into sustainable places, mate. Take care.
I'm sure there's so much more we can do.
Yep.
Take care, Karen.
Yeah, there is too, that's for sure. That was Dr. Uwe Stroeher from Neutrog.
More than 50%